Welcome back, listeners, to a special Thursday episode of The New Standard. And as always, I have my partner in crime to my left, Ghost Neal Coolong.
Loving this.
What's
This is
up,
so cool.
Ghost Neal?
This is the dumbest thing in the world. Um, yeah, it's awesome to be here as always, Lance, on this glorious, most fabricated of nonsense NFL tentpole events, the schedule. But you know what? That's why we're here. We love this stuff. Let's be honest. It's still fun, regardless of kind of how contrived it's all become. It is interesting to
Yeah.
see who's going where, and we like talking about it. So
I love it because it gives platforms of our size information and stuff to talk about to keep people coming back to the program and getting material. And as always, if you want to get the podcast or check us out on YouTube, go to YouTube, do a search for The New Standard and Neal Coolong or myself, Lance Williams, or you can find the show any podcast platform. Do a search for Apple Podcasts or do a search for Google for The New Standard on Apple Podcasts or Google and Spotify. Those are different platforms, but by now you guys know how to find podcasts. As I watch, and if you're watching us on YouTube, you're looking at Neal's hands disappear as yeah, you know what that looks like? That looks like a wild 80s MTV video with the bad graphics when people's limbs went in and out of the graphic and whatever. You have to just join us on YouTube. And big up to everybody right now who's on YouTube. Big up to Double H who's typing German in the chat.
what
So big up to Double H as well. Big up to Ollie Howard
you
Species
know what those words mean.
5618. Big up to him as well. Um, uh, and a happy post Ramadan to you. Happy Ed to Ali Howard Species 5618. But so correct me if I'm wrong before we're going to jump into the show. And this show is we are going to look into the crystal ball and predict the Steelers 22 season. We're going to look into and we're going to predict the season. And so correct me if I'm wrong. The goal is our home games, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the home games. So the home games are in gold. So we're going to go 1 through 17. And then we're also going to pick our AFC North divisional winner. Now, some of this for me, some of my predictions, as Ollie Howard Species says, 17-0, is based on the fact that I think Deshaun Watson is going to get suspended 8 games. I don't anticipate Deshaun Watson being back to the second half of the season. If Trevor Bauer got 2 years, NFL math is like 4 games. So maybe, NFL math is like maybe so because Trevor Bauer got 2 seasons, maybe the NFL will look bad if they don't give Watson at least 8 games. They probably don't want to give Watson any games, but to save some face and just not be the NFL, I think they're going to give Watson about 8 games. I think it'll be a 10-game suspension that'll get knocked down to 8 games because the NFL has a conscious
call it time serve or something.
Yeah,
but
something.
It's going to have to be.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I could see him stalling on this for a while too. It might be more beneficial for an already heavily damaged public relations situation for the NFL to have him suspended on the cheap portion of his contract. They might just claim we're going to let the legal system work itself out, which of course it's not going to, and suspend him next year when he's actually making some money. I don't know. There are a lot of different shady, weird, political back channeling types of options that the NFL always has available to it. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if that's what this ends up being. But just for common sense, I would just say, look, he needs to be suspended. I don't think there's a way in the world anybody is able to argue that. And the domestic violence policy is 6 games. if they don't suggest this is on that level, they're going to get hell from everybody. It to me, it's 6 games. I would not be surprised, though, for the same reasons that you mentioned, that they would make it 8 just to put some teeth into it. Watson honestly doesn't seem to care at all about his image, about the way that he looks, and he might, want to go to the mattresses and fight this for a long time. I don't know. It's a messy situation. Odds of him playing against Pittsburgh, though, in their
Let's
first
wait.
game, I'm not
Let's
spoiling it for you.
let's wait. So with
I'm
that,
not seeing it.
yes.
Odds
So
are of that, though, I don't think are very good.
with that being said, we all know that NFL fines don't have teeth; they have gums. Those are gums. Like they're designed with us fans being able to consume the games as we like. So I'm just going to anticipate that he's out. But let's jump right into it. The first game of the year is on the road at Cincinnati, playing a Bungles team that beat the Steelers last year about 5,000 to 10 in the 2 games last year. So, Neal, game 1, give me your prediction, win or loss in the season opener.
Hey, those were a hard fought 10 points. Okay. That was a touchdown that all Deontay Johnson fantasy owners needed to have that day. I Bengals are a tough team. I don't want to say that last year was a fluke, but I do think that they caught a pretty nice wave in the AFC. Played a phenomenal second half and overtime against Kansas City for a huge win, and damn near won the Super Bowl. Good for them for doing it. That feels far more lightning in a bottle to me. I don't think the Bengals are going to be quite at that level, but it's going to be a lot in week 1. I famously projected a Bills win by at least 30 points in week 1 last season. This is on the same level. I think Cincinnati will probably they'll take the win. I think Pittsburgh will actually show up for the first time in a while against a Bengals team and play them competitively. But Cincinnati is going to win that one.
I'm going to shock you, Neal. I'm coming out the gates with some fire in week 1. I'm coming out with a Steelers dub week 1. You know why I'm coming out with a Steelers dub week 1? I thought the same thing week 1 against Buffalo. I thought Buffalo was going to smash the Steelers. But you know what happened week 1 Buffalo? They had some specialized game plan that they had worked on for a bunch of time that they rolled out just for Buffalo. I think the Bungles are the Bungles. And when I say the Bungles are the Bungles, I mean, I think the Bungles cannot deal with prosperity like good teams.
You know
I
what it
don't
means.
I don't like their offensive line. It's yet to stabilize. He came off of an injury, getting banged up in the Super Bowl. I don't know what he is from that perspective. I still think the Steelers' defensive line, no matter who starts, is going to be rock solid. And I think that defense is going to be absolutely ready to roll and try to get some get back against the Bungles after getting absolutely destroyed. And I had to listen to that game in a 10-hour traffic jam driving home, listening to them get absolutely destroyed. Steelers get the dub. Steelers get the dub week 1, and everybody's asking what's wrong with Joe Burrow after the Steelers sack him 7 times and win the game on
Love
a
the
field goal
optimism.
by Chris Boswell.
Love the
Steelers
optimism.
1-0, baby. Week 2, home opener against the dreaded New England Patriots. Now, also, the other thing I want to say, in a lot of my predictions, it's tilted in quarterback play. So a lot of these predictions for me are assuming that Kenny Pickett is not dressing, that he's the number 3, the backup is Mason Rudolph, and the starter is Mitchell Trubisky. Let me just throw that out there. Because if Kenny Pickett was starting, I might pick the Steelers to go 0-17. So I'm just going to say that. Week 2 against the Patriots, what you say, Neal?
I like their chances against the Patriots. I think it's we'll see what New England does. I think they had a very specialized offseason. I think they intended to provide some firepower, which they just didn't have offensively last year. A new coaching staff over there, essentially, with Josh on the offensive side of the ball, with Josh McDaniels leaving to Las Vegas. I'm not sure the Patriots will have had enough time to really kind of figure out what they're doing. That's a good game for me to have early for Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's defense at home in their home opener. This is a team that wins 70% of its home games, something like that anyway. Their home opener is more like 75 to 80%. I like their chances in the home opener in week 2.
Week 2, I'm going with the Steelers again. Week 2. I'm coming out firing and hot. I think the Steelers defense week 2 at home against that offense, I think they really can get after those guys. I love your point about Josh McDaniels leaving. They got a new coordinator there. I really think they get after the Patriots early in the season. I like, my only issue with the Steelers early in the season will be their offensive transition as well. Where will Mitch Trubisky be as a starter with the Pittsburgh Steelers early in the season? Like, how good will he be? But I think early in the season, I think the running game and the defense will carry the Steelers. I think that Patriot offense, particularly in the wide receiver position, isn't extremely explosive. If they run it to the tune that they did last year, I think early in the season, the Steelers will deal with the run pretty well. Some of this for me still is if Tua or Alualu comes back, but according to you, you're fine with Adams and what's the kid that you love as well on the defensive line?
Isaiah Loudermilk, who we'll chop this up. Let's get some feedback from people. So the way Loudermilk looked to me last year, and in this segment, Lance, you might remember after the Steelers traded back into the 5th round, the round that they hate drafting in so much, to take Loudermilk, a guy who had typically a 7th round or undrafted grade for most people. Looking at his body of work in the preseason and in limited action, although probably a lot more snaps than I thought he was going to get as a rookie, that kid belongs. He's going to be good. I can see now why they were so excited about him, why they wanted to move up to get him. Great body. He's built, if not exceptionally so, for the position he's going to be playing. And his hand usage was above and beyond. Normally what you see is a rookie. And the amazing thing is, you kind of reminded me of was Stephon Tuitt. So I could see why they would be excited about his development. And plain and simple, we don't know what's going to happen with Tuitt, but the one thing you can't do is count on him. I mean, I'm not trying to sound insensitive.
No, that's absolutely.
It's in play. And we don't, as we're sitting here now, if they don't have any kind of definitive answer today, they're not planning on him being there. So to be honest, it might have already been decided that they're going to move on. I like Loudermilk. I'm not sure where we sit right now, if he's ready to step in and be a starter, but you have to really like the career arc that he's on already. And as far as Montravius Adams goes, my God, that guy might have saved the Steelers' season last year. They were in a complete free fall up front before he finally figured things out, was able to get on the field, and he contributed at a considerably higher level, I think, than most people could have reasonably thought he was going to. You get a guy like that in there. If you're going to keep Alualu there, I'm not saying whether they will or they won't. We don't know that right now. We do know he's coming off a season-ending injury. He's 35 years of age, and he's making $3 million. Adams is about at that same price point and plays the same position. It kind of suggests to me that one of them is going to go, and it's not going to be Adams. So
Lulu's out of there.
If you bring both of them back, though, you're looking at a pretty solid stable of interior defensive linemen that can play rested. They can play more aggressively that way. You have to like what they have with their defensive line. And I think the addition of DeMarvin Leal in situations can help with that depth as well. You can always count on the Steelers to develop good NFL defensive linemen. I don't know if they're Pro Bowlers or not, but the guys that the Steelers bring in from the beginning and train stick around in the NFL for a little while. Isaiah Buggs still has a job. Okay, let's put it that way.
Right. And so
they develop quality defensive linemen, and I think the ones they have now are going to be pretty good.
I'm gonna make sure I take a look at Loudermilk off air. Text me a game that, or put it in the chat here, a game that we all might want to look at Louder Milk play. Just put in the chat here a game that we might want to play. So right now, Neal has the Steelers 1-1. I have the Steelers 2-0. Week 3
Wow.
on the road against the Cleveland Browns. I'm gonna go first on this one. If Baker Mayfield is playing again, wait. First of all, I have no idea if Baker Mayfield. Steelers with a resounding victory over Cleveland. I think they beat Cleveland regardless of who is playing quarterback. And I don't think it's going to be Deshaun Watson. And somehow I don't think it's Baker Mayfield. By the way, I've not seen one of those insurance commercials in quite some time. And so I just can't see how they work that whole quarterback situation out in Cleveland. So I'm going to guess that Cleveland is playing somebody that none of us have heard of, and the Steelers go into Cleveland, get busy, and go to 3-0. And Stephen A. Smith is making some ridiculous take on First Take because he's a Steeler fan, saying the Steelers are going to go to the Super Bowl. Steelers jump out hot, 3-0, baby, 3-0. Steeler defense gets it done again against the Clowns. 3-0 Steelers start. Give me the dub against the Browns on the road.
The bad news that I have for you is no matter how this shakes out, Baker Mayfield's not going to be their quarterback in that game or any other game. There's just no way they're going to keep him to be a backup. He doesn't want that. There are plenty of teams that will take Baker Mayfield. The issue right now is just the cost of it and what it's going to cost to acquire him. I don't think anybody wanted to give up assets in this draft for Mayfield and the chunk of his $18 million salary that's now guaranteed. This is all just posturing. He's going to get dealt. The question is, how much are the Browns going to have to be on the hook for of his salary, and what they're going to get back in exchange for the player that they clearly don't have interest in playing, but is clearly an NFL starting quarterback. So whatever it is that they do, could be Carolina, maybe,
that's where I think he's going. I think he's going to Carolina.
But keep in mind, the reason we know this it has nothing to do with Deshaun Watson. It's the fact that the Browns signed Jacoby Brissett.
Absolutely.
Right after they signed, they acquired Watson and then gave him an extension. The idea was Brissett starting those 6 games. That's the backup type of role. You bring in the experienced veteran to hold down the fort. If they wanted Mayfield, they wouldn't have bothered. They know that they're getting rid of Mayfield. And to be honest, you kind of owe it to him. I mean, he's a first overall pick. He gave you his all. Things don't work out. I get it. But you don't keep him as a backup on that salary. Trade him. Let him get an opportunity to play somewhere. I mean, come on. That's a no-brainer that only Cleveland, I guess, could screw up. But I just don't feel like Watson's going to get suspended. I don't have any reason to go off that, just except for Watson he's pushing back incredibly hard to the point, we've talked about this, to the point where Watson is perfectly positioned and prepared to go scorched earth on this whole thing. The NFL does not have a shred of evidence to do anything that they're going to do. And the NFL, away from cameras, is going to say, look, we have to do something here. This is the reason he didn't play a snap last season. He didn't even dress up for Houston, and he wasn't suspended. The whole thing to me reeks of, there are 4 sides involved with all of this, and all of them have guns to each other's heads. And it's been a stalemate for however long. I don't think the NFL has the leverage where we sit today to be able to suspend him for an amount of time that he is going to feel agreeable to.
You know what, Neal?
Now that he's getting all that money, there's no way he wants to be off the field. So
Neal, if you had a gun to my head, I couldn't see your hand. If you had a gun to my head, your hand disappears. So let me guess. With that being said, you're picking the Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson to tear up this Steeler defense.
I am picking the Cleveland Browns, overhauled Cleveland Browns, and a much better Cleveland Browns team this season that will have Deshaun Watson playing in that game.
Week 4 1 and so you got the Steelers right now 2-1. I got them 3-0. Week
I got them
4.
1-2. I got them 1-2.
Oh,
They're
that's right. You
losing the
got a
Bengals.
loss.
They're
You got a
beating the
loss. You
Patriots
got
and
a one
losing the
and two.
Browns.
You got a 1-2. I got them 3-0. So right now, week 4 at home against the Jets. I don't think there's a long explanation here. I don't think the quarterback can play. Typically, when I pick games, I tilt towards the team that has the better quarterback. And I think this is going to be the first matchup where Trubisky is actually the better quarterback in the game. I
Might
have
be the
no
only one.
faith in that quarterback up in with the Jets. They were absolutely terrible last year. I think they averaged 14 points a game, 15 points a game, which should be impossible in today's National Football League. There's no way that they make the jump that they think they're going to make. I thought they had a good draft, but I just don't think they're a good football team still. So I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers to start 4-0, baby. That's another W. And the black and gold nation is rolling. We going to the Super Bowl. I got a feeling.
Oh boy.
I got a feeling.
We'll
Pittsburgh's going to the 4-0 Bowl.
we'll remember this show if they start 4-0, lads, because we will open the show with that song if that's the case. But
4-0,
there's no way
baby.
in hell they're winning.
4-0, baby.
Just no way. Not a chance. I don't think the Jets are a great team either. I do think that they have built a lot. They've made positive moves. I think they had a couple guys go down with injuries that they were going to count on last season. They didn't get a chance to get anything out of them. Those guys will be back. I think they're a better team. Not that it takes a whole lot to be better year to year than the Jets, but the Steelers they're going to have to win this game if they want any prayer of the postseason. This is their first big critical game, in my opinion. And I'll reserve that for whether or not Watson's playing in week 3. Of their first 4 games, this is the pivotal game to me. I have them winning that game, and the difference is they're 2-2 versus 1-3, with a brutal stretch before the bye coming after that game against the Jets in week 4. So they're going to have to win that game. I think that's going to be the key game for what they're trying to do, and I think they'll win it. So I've got them going at the quarter pole. They're 2-2.
Week 5, pain. They play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mr. T said when he was asked in Rocky 3 about what's going to happen in the fight, and he said, pain. This is going to be painful. Tom Brady, until very late in his career with the Patriots, did the Steelers every which way but loose. Did the Steelers in all types of ways that we don't even want to examine. That's a loss. They're going to get their ass whooped too. Brady's going to smash them.
We're week 5 against Buffalo, aren't we?
No, excuse me. Yes, I jumped. Week 5 against Buffalo. We'll just take everything that I just said, because you're right. We are on week 5. And sorry, everyone. I just came from the optometrist. I got my eyes dilated because I can't see. And now I need readers because I'm above 50 and I got progressive lenses. Maybe that's too much information. So just want to apologize for me not seeing the schedule correctly.
I don't know what that means.
It means you're younger than me and your eyes aren't bad. But everything I just said for the Bucks, save it for the Bucks and add that to the Bills. So I'm going for my next 2 picks, L and L. They're going to lose to the Bills and they're going to lose to the Bucks. So give me your predictions for both of those games. The first game being the Bills, the second game being the Bucks.
I think you can see my hands. 2L. There.
They're getting
thumped in both of those games. Like, you know what? It's hard to bet against the Steelers in terms of 7+ point spreads. They compete, they fight hard. They're going to have a good defense, but their offense is not competitive. It just isn't. You're not going to outgun Tom Brady anywhere in the universe. Doesn't matter where you're playing that game. And the Bills probably still pissed about week 1 from last year. I mean that
maybe if they played
very well made them play Kansas City in the divisional as opposed to the championship game. they'll look for a little bit of payback, and I think you get a better start to the year because look, we talked about this at the time too. That win over Buffalo, if not for the win over Tennessee last year, was the biggest fluke win I've seen the Steelers have in my lifetime. There is no way they should have won that game. And there were a variety of reasons why they should have lost it. They're not beating that team 2 years in a row. There's no way. Those are two, I think, pretty emphatic losses. Teeth will gnash at that 2-game losing streak. It'll be savage. They'll get killed in both of them.
I'm looking at that Bucks game. I think they're going to be close to almost 7-point dogs at home
At least
against the Bucks.
Yep, 7, 6. Well, they put it this way: they're 6.5 dogs against Cincinnati in week 1.
Yeah,
I know Cincinnati just went to the Super Bowl. They're not that good of a team. Okay, Tampa Bay is a very, very good team. Balanced. I mean, guys are willing to run through a wall for Joseph, the guy they just hired to replace Arians. It's still Arians' team. It's still the culture that's there. They kept their coordinators in place for the by and large, with former Steelers quarterback Byron Leftwich is still there. They have firepower. Tampa Bay is a really good team. There's no reason why they can't win the NFC this year. Steelers aren't anywhere near that level. They can't compete with that team.
So, listeners in the chat, after the first 6 games, I have the Steelers at 4-2. Neal has them at 2-4. So, give us your picks in the chat. Throw us your picks. Darkstorm has them at 3-3. If you're in the chat, make sure you give us your picks over the first 6 games. And so, in the 7th game, they play the Miami Dolphins on the road. That's always a tough game for the Steelers to go down to Miami. It's going to be hot. I like the weapons that Miami has. I'm not overly sold on Tua as a player, but again, in most of these matchups, to me, especially if you're on the road, I really lean towards the team that has the better quarterback. I like what Miami is doing.
You have the Steelers 4-0. You favor the quarterbacks? It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
Steelers might be on their second quarterback of the year by this point.
It's euphoria. I mean, I think it's euphoria. The running game, defense. That's why I'm coming out hot, baby. And but I think they lose this game against the Dolphins on the road. So I'm giving them an L in this game.
They beat the Dolphins. Who are the Dolphins? Why are the Dolphins any good? We spend more time
that Florida trip is
analyzing Tua and his apparent alleged ability to consistently make plays in the NFL. He's not spectacular. There's nothing great about him. They have weapons, sure. They're good weapons. They're probably better weapons than the Steelers, and they probably still have the edge at quarterback. They don't have a great defense. They're not a good defensive team. They're not all around good. More than anything, I'll give the emotional toll to the Steelers in this one because Brian Flores is going to show up and kick the holy hell out of his former team. That's what's going to happen. They'll beat Miami.
I like that.
That one will be convincing.
Yeah, I think you convinced me. I forgot about the Flores impact in that game. I'm gonna go with the Steelers with I'm gonna go with Steelers dub in there, and to the point where if the Steelers get the win, they'll probably carry him off the field too with the legal papers in his hands. Anyway, that would be absolutely hilarious.
As long as you win the game,
he's getting carried off on some shoulders with the deposition paper in his hand as he gets to the sideline.
Whatever Dolphins fans there are, just royally pissed off about.
And they hand Stephen Ross the legal papers as he gets carried to Stephen Ross's box.
It's the ending of a really bad movie.
That would be exactly. That would be instead of Rudy, it'd be Brian. It'd be Brian. He gets carried off with legal papers, and the text is Brian Flores never coached again in the NFL, but he paid a shitload of money. That's the subject.
He was never again.
He would never get a coach, but he was a multimillionaire. End of story. So Okay, great. That's comedy relief right there. I thought that was pretty funny myself. Next game on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles. Give me your pick,
Man,
Neil.
God, I hate them in Philadelphia. I think they hate being in
Yeah,
Philadelphia.
they get smashed in
Yeah,
Philly.
they put up some clunkers in Philly. I don't know how good Philly is. I don't know why I would think that Philly's any better than Miami is. Um, I don't like him in Philadelphia. I gave him a loss. And
Now,
Jalen Hurts is a better player than people give him credit for.
and they
I
got a
think he
weird
can
running
play.
game too. They got a weird system up there. Sirianni, that
He's
system is
smart.
kind of yeah, that system is kind of weird. They run the shit out of the football up there. Let me ask you, the last time they beat Philly in Philly was no, that was in Pittsburgh the year they started 5-0. They beat the Patriots in Philadelphia in back-to-back weeks. Correct me if I'm
Back
wrong.
in '04. Was
Yeah,
that
that
the
was they
last
went
time?
5-0. Then they
No,
went to Philly and
I'm
he got
thinking of,
sacked. Ben got sacked like 8 times up in
yeah,
Philly.
that was '08. That was their Super Bowl year.
Yeah, he almost got killed in
Yeah, I'm
Philadelphia.
surprised Ben played another game in the NFL after that
Yeah,
one.
he got murdered in Philly. And I
So,
remember that
Jim
weekend pretty
Johnson,
fondly.
R.I.P. or R.I.P.
I remember
R.I.P. to the legend of Jim Johnson. That guy was a defensive mastermind, and he absolutely slaughtered the Steelers in that game. Pittsburgh had zero response to anything that they came up with, and shit,
I'm a,
they should have had more than 9, as far as I
yeah,
remember,
there was a bunch of missed
especially like
sacks. It could have been like
every
12 to
drop back.
14. Yeah, it could have been like 12 to 14. I remember that weekend fondly because uh my niece was born that weekend too that they got absolutely killed. And it's funny, I'm a degenerate Steeler fan, degenerate sports fan because I remember family activities around Steeler games and Steeler events. It's easy for me to tie those two together.
Does anybody listening not do that? I've always done that.
Thank you. Then I feel okay.
I
Yeah, I always
remember
do that.
double digit numbers by two Steeler player jerseys.
Yes, like all
Shit,
types of.
I
Well,
was I thought that was normal. Apparently, it's not.
we're from Pittsburgh, so maybe it's not normal. So we have some issues. So
How
at the
else do you memorize numbers?
no, we're from Pittsburgh. We figure out ways that are weird. I,
Oh,
at the bye
oh,
week,
you're right.
you have the Steelers. Okay, 1, 2. You have the Steelers at
I'm 3-5.
3-5. You have the Steelers at 3-5. I have the Steelers at 5-3 at the bye week. 3-5. If the Steelers are 3-5 at the bye week, let's just since we have the crystal ball open, if the Steelers are 3-5 at the bye week, is Mitch Trubisky still the starter for the rest of the season? Is he the starter in the week 9 or is that week 10 game against the Giants?
I think 3-5 at that point. If Trubisky's the starter, is pretty optimistic. I mean, it could easily be worse than that. Again, it goes back to what you said. Look, let's. All right, we don't know about Watson. We went different ways with Watson, but I don't think Trubisky is better than Mac Jones. Zach Wilson has a lot more talent, that's for sure. Let's see what happens there with the Jets, but it's
he can throw
laughable
he
to
can
think
throw
that
off
he's
one
anywhere
foot.
close to Burrow, Allen, Brady. I don't think he's better than Tua is. I don't think he's better than Hurts is. So that right there, you're at a disadvantage. The most important position in the game,
Almost
handily
every
in
almost
most of
every
the games
week.
at this point.
Yes.
So it's gets maybe a little better, but not much. So if anything, if he's still standing, I think he's going to get hurt. I think he's going to clam up the way that he does. He's going to try to think that he's still a great athlete that can run on the edge in the NFL, and he's going to get tattooed at some point. He's going to miss time. So I don't think he gets benched. I think he gets hurt. At that point, I think it'll be Pickett. I don't think they're going to keep Rudolph. They'll probably be able to sling get a seventh for him after camp if he kind of shows something. Doesn't make a ton of money. You'll have a team that needs a quarterback somewhere with an injury or whatever. he might have some residual value, but I don't think Rudolph's on the team. I think Pickett takes over when Trubisky gets hurt. And to be honest, I don't think Trubisky gets the job back at that point either.
So, very interesting. So, for the next half of these picks, for the next 9 games that we're going to pick, you're picking them with Pickett as the starter.
Well,
Kind of, sort of, maybe.
It's not Pickett, it's the position.
It's the position.
You have to kind of
Okay.
combine the two of them together because I don't know. Either way, though, no more than I know that week 11 against Cincinnati, Joe Burrow is going to be on the field. I can't
True. Of
guarantee
course. Yes. But
if he's healthy, he's going to play, of course.
Yeah.
With the Steelers, put Trubisky and Pickett together. I don't know how different that is. Where we sit right now, I don't know how different that is.
How about Mickey?
It's not enough to me to really think that that's going to give him the edge over Cincinnati because you got Pickett in there instead of Trubisky. I don't know if that difference is that great at that point. Is it going to be who the hell's Carolina's starting quarterback now? Is it still going to be Darnold?
He's terrible. So you're saying the combining of the quarterbacks are going to be Mickett, Trubisky. So that's going to be the quarterback, Mickett, Trubisky. So okay, so we got Mickett.
Am I here?
We got Mickett, Trubisky, Trubisky. And when you hear that first on this show, if you hear it somewhere else, if you hear Mickett Trubisky somewhere else, you know that Lance Williams and the new standard, we came up with it first. So 3-5, 5-3. First game after the bye, Steelers start with 2 home games. First game being the Giants, second game being the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going with the win over the Giants. I think Daniel Jones is still their starting quarterback, correct?
Isn't it the Saints? But no, Daniel Jones is the quarterback.
Why did I say that? Again,
honestly, I saw the same thing. I know exactly what you mean because I was like, they're playing the Giants. Oh, the Saints. The Giants and Saints looks the same.
Yes, it looks the same. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I was like, man, am I going crazy? Well, it's the Saints. Sorry, it's the Saints. They're going to play Jameis Winston at home. I kind of like Jameis as a player, not much. I'm assuming that Jameis Winston is going to be the quarterback of the Saints. With that being said, it could be Baker. With that being said, the Saints are a hell of a defensive team. And they hang their hat on defense. I thought they were very good on defense last year. And whether it's Trubisky, whether it's Pickett, whether it's Mickett Trubisky, I'm going with the Saints. I hate to pick the Steelers not to win the game off of a bye at home, but I like that Saints defense, what they do defensively consistently under Allen. I'm going to go with the Saints. I'm going to go with a Steeler loss there.
I'm going to give you a great stat, one that I've always enjoyed. Dennis Allen, as a head coach in the NFL, has 8 wins in 2 seasons. 2 of those 8 wins have come against Mike Tomlin's Steelers. I don't know what it is, why it is, and it's probably more of the old Oakland Raiders jinx against a Steelers team that the better they are, the more talented that they are than the Raiders, the more likely they are to lose the game. Dennis Allen's going to find some of that magic at some point. And this team, let's be honest, the Saints, they're going to be a dumpster fire early. Dennis Allen never showed to be a great coach. The internal hire because Sean Payton's taking a year off or whatever it is that's going on with him. It's going to take him a little bit to get his footing. The Steelers are coming off of a bye, and more recently that's we've seen them to be rusty, slow coming out of the gates. I think the Saints are going to steal that one from them. And a big part of that is just because Dennis Allen doesn't seem able to beat anybody else in the NFL except for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. So I'm taking the Saints.
You know, the thing I remember most about that Saints game, and that's the game that Juju fumbled and all of Steeler Nation absolutely destroyed Juju, was Antonio Brown put on an absolute show in that game. That's one of the best games I've seen a wide receiver play in the last 10 to 15 years. He put
That
on
is
an
the best game
I mean,
you've seen a
goodness
wide receiver play.
gracious, he put on a show, and he was going up against a great corner in that game, and he was
He went up
killing
against
him.
3 corners in that. They triple covered the guy.
They could do
Ben
nothing with
Ben and
AB.
Antonio Brown together are one of the 3 best pairs of quarterbacks and wide receivers in NFL history. I will fight anybody that tries to argue with me about that. I don't care what Antonio Brown did after the game. The fact of the matter is that was the best performance of his career, and he's a Hall of Fame player. He was absolutely out of his mind. 3rd and
He
10, game on the line. The entire building knows that ball is going to Brown. Ben put that somehow between 3 defenders, and Brown caught it at an absolutely impossible angle.
he went
And then
nuts.
Juju fumbles the damn thing away. But no, don't criticize Juju. He's just having fun.
Yeah,
Sick of that bullshit.
AB
You
absolutely
don't
went
know why
nuts.
Antonio Brown was pissed off that he wasn't team MVP? It's because he was doing that all season, and Juju was being covered by linebackers in the slot. To even try to compare those two as players is just laughable.
You don't know football. Yeah,
I
that's a
get
whole
that you
different
hate Mark
stratosphere.
Madden. I get that Mark Madden is so far buried in your head. All he has to do is say one negative thing about your hero, and you completely lose it. You absolutely melt down. Juju Smith-Schuster couldn't hold Antonio Brown's jock at any point in his career, and you're seeing why now.
Let's
That
jump to the next week
I can't believe they lost that game.
against the
Lost the
Bengals.
playoffs, Lance.
Yeah, yeah. The next week against the Bengals, unless if Joe Burrow is healthy and playing, I still have not seen um, enough. Although I'm picking the Steelers in week 1 with the shocking upset just because it's week 1. I think it'll be very much like last year. Week 1 was they played the Bills. They had this special game plan, whatever that they pulled out and was able to win. I think this second matchup at home, I think the Bengals get after them. I think Chase goes nuts. I like the Bengals to beat the Steelers in this matchup at home.
You know, this is the one that I look at as that second half of season out of nowhere type of performance. I have them losing to Cincinnati in week 1. Cincinnati is not going to beat them 4 times in a row. They're just not. I said that about Pittsburgh and Baltimore last year. It's not going to happen. I don't have any reason for it except for that. They're not going to beat the Steelers 4 consecutive times. They're not that good of a team yet. They're building it. You're going to see them step down a little bit this season. And I think Pittsburgh, with that, is going to have enough to take this game at home. And I feel probably worse about that win prediction than I do any other on the schedule, but I just think they'll win it.
The next game is on the road against the Indianapolis Colts with the new addition at quarterback at Matty Ice, the outstanding running game, the solidly coached Frank Reich offense on the road. I'm gonna go with another loss there. I like that Colts football team. I think they really got held back by quarterback play last year. I thought they were solid on both sides of the ball. They lost their. Correct me if I'm wrong. They lost Eberflus. Is he gone as their defensive coordinator?
Yes, he's the Bears head coach now.
I think they'll transition by the time you get that late in the season, week 11, whatever bumps in the road that they're going to have on defense will be ironed out. I like the Steelers to lose that game on the road against the Colts.
I hate it, but I agree. Indy doesn't play Pittsburgh particularly tough. They haven't in a while, right? I mean, it's been a while since we lost Indianapolis. Back in the strength of the Killer Bee days, God, they manhandled that team every time they played them. I think they destroyed the confidence level of their entire defense for like 3 straight seasons. I think Antonio Brown, in and of himself, I think he put up like an average of 150 yards against that team. The Colts are a solid team that aren't able to do anything that really scares you.
Yeah, no
That's
special
the type of
effects.
opponent I think the Steelers are gonna really lock horns with because I think they're probably similar. I don't know. I'm really on the fence with that, and there's no reason. With that said, I should be taking the Steelers to get a road primetime win, but I'm going to.
So it's interesting that after the bye week,
I meant they're not going to get that. That's
so
that's a loss against
so
Indy.
you're saying that's a loss. So we're
Yeah.
okay. So we're kind of hook and step right now because after the bye week, I have them with 3 losses. You have them with 2 losses and a win, and the win is against the Bengals. Week 12 against the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are a bad football team. They have no quarterback. They have absolutely no quarterback as it stands right now. Uh, Marcus Mariota is not a quarterback in the National Football League. I don't know
But
what you
Mitchell Trubisky is. Love
he's
it.
better. He's better. Mariota's terrible. Mariota's absolutely
They both
terrible.
suck. That's my point.
They
They're
but at least this may be one of the few games
things are
where
not going
Mika
well for
Trubisky
you if one of those two is your starting quarterback.
well, this might be one of the
Sorry.
few games where Mika Trubisky is actually better than the other quarterback. So
It's
whether
a
it's
rare instance
Trubisky,
in which we have two quarterbacks better than the other team's starter.
so
Hey, Ritter might be their starter by then, for all we know.
yes, actually, so I'm
I
going with
like
the
Ritter.
Steelers. I'm going with the Steelers with a road win in hot Atlanta. Somehow they survived the strip clubs, lemon pepper wings, and the Krispy Kreme donuts and get a win in hot Atlanta.
I'm good with that as well. Atlanta is a mess. They're not. They're going to have challenges. I like what they're trying to do. I like how they're building it out, but they're a team that epitomizes everything that we've said simply about not being able to really plan on winning much if you don't have a quarterback advantage in any game that you play. That's them. I agree with you. I think Mariota sucks. I wouldn't want anything to do with him on my team. And Atlanta's not going to be able to do much with him under center. I think Pittsburgh walks in there and wins that game.
Now, because I know that the people listening to this show are degenerate Steeler fans like us, I wish you guys were helping us keep track of our picks and tallies, so I don't have to do it. Because as you could see,
I
I can,
am.
I can. Oh, you're
Doesn't mind anyway.
great, Neil. Great, awesome. Because I can barely read the schedule because Saints looks like Giants every time I look at
It
it.
does though. It
It looks
does.
like Giants. I mean, or it looks like Jaints or something. Like my eyes
The
are
jank.
really
No, you know
bad.
what it looks like? It's roughly the same font as the old Giants written out on the
Yes,
helmet.
that's what
That's
it
why
is.
it looks like it.
That's what it is. It looks like Giants. It looks like Giants, but I should have known better because there's no other AFC East team, or excuse me, NFC East team on here, and the Steelers obviously aren't playing a first place schedule, so they're not playing the Cowboys. So let's hop to the next game, the first game of the year, and this is odd. This is very interesting that they're not going to play the Ravens until week 14, and in
14.
fact they're going to play the Ravens twice in a 4-week span. That's not rare in and of itself, but it feels very rare that they're going to play the Ravens this late. And I know that the National Football League has been loading up on the back half of the schedule, divisional games to make the last couple of games very meaningful. In this first game, give me your predictions in this first game against the Ravens at home.
The Steelers have not beaten the Ravens 5 consecutive times. John Harbaugh is dippy enough to make me think that he's going to really lock into that. I think that the Steelers will get the Herculean effort from the Ravens that week. They'll do everything they can to get that monkey off their back or whatever hyperbolic bullshit that Harbaugh will throw out that week. I think the Ravens are very similar to the Steelers. I think they are not going to be a great passing team. There are things that they're going to be able to do offensively to have some success, but they're going to be a good defensive team, and it'll be a battle the way that it normally is. And I just flip a coin. I don't think Pittsburgh beats Baltimore 5 times in a row. I'd love to see it, but I'm taking Baltimore in that.
I am going to take the Steelers with the dub. I like how the Steelers really play Lamar well, and they
Yeah.
really play Lamar well at home. I think they have a good sense of how they want to defend Lamar. And as good as Lamar is, and as young as he still is, and good as he still has some limitations in the passing game. And that Ravens offense, I think, is an offense that you do better against it the more you see it. And I think that kind of a general statement, but that offense is weird. It has some weird kind of quirks to it and some principles that if you don't play it often, they'll catch you. There are some things that you'll be surprised about. And I think just the overall athleticism of Lamar is shocking if you don't play the Ravens consistently and kind of know what it is. There's a few freaks in football because all these guys are absolute ridiculous dudes, but there's a couple of guys that are absolute freaks above the freaks.
The dudes among the
Lamar
dudes.
is one of them.
Yep.
Aaron Donald's another one. TJ's one of those guys. There's some guys that are just freakish dudes. Lamar is one of those dudes, but when you're used to playing Lamar, some of that shock and awe dissipates. So I got the Steelers with a dub in that win. The next week, the Steelers play the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers, who we think will be the landing spot of said Baker Mayfield, progressive commercial host or sponsor. So I think the Panthers are a mess. I think Rule will be on his way out by that point in time. And I like the Steelers with a dub on the road against the Panthers.
This might be the job that he gets fired in. Maybe the week before, they'd be even better. Somebody help me out. When's the last time the Steelers lost the Panthers in the regular season? They don't play very much, but my memory is the Steelers usually beat the hell out of them pretty good.
I'm surprised they're not playing in the preseason. They typically play every preseason.
Yeah, I was trying to save that. An old running joke that I had that started on the other site was the Landry Bowl, the Landry Jones Bowl, preseason week 4 throwaway against Carolina, which was as set in stone as the sun rising in the east. The first year they're not playing that game. It's just weird. A lot of good memories, a lot of good jokes out of that. But yeah, they will not play. I don't think that's because they're playing in the regular season. Maybe it's not something that's meant to be permanent. They just really couldn't work it out this year, and they'll get back to it next year. But I think it's like 17 years they played the Panthers in their preseason finale. So yeah, they're not going to do that this year, but they will play them in the regular season. I have little to no respect for Matt Rule, and I think we will see that play out this year when they completely implode.
He got 7 years too. He got a 7-year contract. He got a 7-year deal.
All that means is the value of his buyout goes up. That's it. They're not like. Here's the problem with that. Moving forward, if I'm an owner of an NFL team, if you want me to give you 5 years guaranteed, you will find an answer to the quarterback position within the first 2 years. If you don't, you won't be here. I don't want this Sam Darnold bullshit. I don't want. They didn't get Howell. Who do they take? Matt Corral in the 3rd round or wherever he went. It's not an answer. It's not an answer. Not the amount of money that I'm paying you. Quarterback better be more valuable than you financially, more valuable than you talent-wise, more valuable than you as far as your future goes. If you can't come up with an answer for that, you're not my coach. It's that simple. I can't win in the NFL consistently if I don't have a quarterback. And you're trading away 2nd-round picks for Sam Darnold, who's a proven loser in the NFL. You're drafting a risk as competition to Sam Darnold. You're not giving me an answer. You're giving me matchsticks, and I can't do anything with that but burn them out. So you're done. Rule's a joke.
So as we hit the hour mark, close to the hour mark, we're gonna go rapid fire on these last 3 picks.
They're beating Carolina. I got them 6-8 right now.
What do you have me at? You're at 6-8. What do you have me at? I got a lot of dubs on my tally.
Yeah, you got them like top seed in the AFC here, Lance.
No, I don't.
Not sure how, but
no, I don't. What do I have them at?
You've got at the 6-8 mark, you've got them with 8 wins. So you got them at 8-6.
So I got them at 8-6. Let me give you my rapid fire last 3 picks. I think the Raiders are an ascending football team, especially with the acquisition of Devontae Adams. I think that pairing with him and Carr is going to be magical this year. I think that's a tough trip going to Vegas late in the year. I got them with a loss there. I got them losing to the Ravens, so I have them splitting, and I have them losing to the Browns to end the year, assuming that Deshaun Watson is playing is playing at that point. So I have the Steelers losing the last 3 games and potentially losing a playoff spot by going 0-3 in the last 3 games. And I think if I got it right, that would leave them. I have them at 8-9, and this would be Mike Tomlin's first losing season.
Unfortunately, yes. The Vegas game for me is the clinching of the losing season. I think Josh McDaniels is going to be coach of the year. I think you're going to see a lot of great things with the Raiders because McDaniels is he has been looked over to flashier, more marketable coaching names. Josh McDaniels is the best offensive coach in football, and you're going to see him do great things with what they have in Vegas. That's going to be a good team. That said, Vegas, the Raiders don't need to be good to beat the Steelers. They beat them all the time anyway. So that's a loss. I've got them beating Baltimore in Baltimore. I'm not really sure how or why, but I don't think Baltimore's good enough to sweep them. And I'm going off of really just the gut feeling 3 weeks earlier. So I don't know. I mean, they're even. I think they're 2 even teams. That Cleveland game, I can go back and forth on this all day. I think it'll be a loss. I got them at 7-10, and that fit. I went into it seeing that my predicted record at that point was 7-9. I feel more confident overall that they'll be 7-9, I guess, than they'll lose to Cleveland in a week 7 or week 18 game. It's tradition to crush the Browns in that game, completely steal their souls and their spirits, and watch their head coach get fired the next day. But I think the Steelers will win this one, or the Steelers will lose this one. 7-10. Which I don't think is a horrible season for this team.
No, I don't either. I have them at 8-9. So we both have them at losing records. I started off hot. I ended at some point, starting Mick at Trubisky is going to it's going to get
bad for your health.
I mean, you can't have a deficit at the quarterback position with each game that you go into. So you have them at 7-10. I have them at 8-9. Who do you think wins the AFC North?
Oh, you're going to be all over me for this. To be honest, I think it's the Cleveland Browns.
And that's assuming, obviously, that's obviously assuming that Deshaun Watson plays a majority of the games.
I think Watson plays the majority of their games, but I think they have the least, as crazy as this sounds, over 18 weeks, I think they have the least amount of question marks in their team top to bottom. I think they have the most balance, and I think they've got the most talent at the most talented positions.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. They have the quarterback. They have the offensive line. They have 2 good backs. They can rush the passer.
Yeah. At an elite level, keep that in mind.
At an elite level, they have a solid secondary.
Great secondary. Should be a lot better than they were. I think last year was just kind of a step forward kind of year for them. But they have the pieces in place. I know what Cincinnati did last season. Don't tell me in week 13 you thought Cincinnati was going to the Super Bowl. Don't tell me that, okay?
Not at all.
We're making predictions now. Cleveland is just the most balanced team in the division. I think they have the most talented team, have a 4-2 record against this division, and I think they're going to win it. I'm not saying they're necessarily a great team. 10-7 is a good football team. I think that's Cleveland. I think they could beat Cincinnati. I could see Cincinnati falling to 9-8 for almost the same reasons why Cleveland fell apart last season. With one injury, they're still kind of coming into their own. I still don't have any faith in Zach Taylor as a coach. I will continue to carry that flag. Cincinnati's not that good. They're going to regress this season. I can guarantee
It's tough.
they're not the playoff team that we saw. They're going to be a good team. They're better than the Steelers are. They're going to be competitive. I think Cleveland's going to beat them.
I think if I'm looking at the AFC North, I agree. I think it'll be the Browns that'll win a division, but I think it'll be within 1 or 2 games. I think
Yeah,
the division, I think the race in the division will be close between the
might be
Browns
their
and
week
the
18
Bengals.
game. It might come
Yeah,
down to that.
I
It might
think
be
it'll
the
be
Sunday night game.
close. I mean, I think where Joe Burrow still has to change his game. He cannot get hit as much.
Not nearly as good as people are making him out to be. You watch the film, he's
yeah,
not that good.
He's
good. He's going to get better. He is not nearly what people made him out to be. Stafford badly outplayed him in that game.
Yeah, he's going to have to progress. I would agree. So I think the Browns win the division. I think Cincinnati comes in second. The Ravens are third, and I think the Steelers come in last in the division. But I think the division is going to be fairly tight.
It's
where
competitive.
7 and 10, 8, 9, like
if
11 and 6
is the worst team in the division. You've got a pretty good division.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. And again, the reason why I'm not picking the Steelers to win a division is because Mika Trubisky. I mean, it's just the quarterback position. I mean, you can't have the worst starting quarterback in a division and try to win the division. It's just the quarterback position is just too important. But before we get out of here, Neal, is there anything you want to tease? Are you guys doing some predictions on the Steelers Wire or doing some of the fun stuff we did?
We've got the predictions all set up. Go to the site, SteelersWire.com. You'll see it. I don't know what they did. I know what I did, and I'm obviously right. So if you want to look at their wrong predictions, I guess I don't want to call them that because they're trying.
Look at you. They're trying. We're trying. We're all trying. But with that, we're going to get out of here, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Of course, take all this with a grain of salt. But since we're looking into the crystal ball, hey, man, we are looking into the crystal ball. Neal sees 7 and 10. I see 8 and 9. But with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude the show. And as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. Go Steelers.